everyone, I'm Priya Sheth, and this session that we're hosting today is on developer velocity with Azure as well as GitHub. In this session today, we're going to cover factors and solutions required to empower developers to be more productive, collaborative, and secure, thereby scaling purposeful innovations. And to shine light on these aspects, we have with us Naveen Sharma, who's the co-founder and director of technology, Media Softwares. We have Vishwanath Swamy, who's associate architect, applied information service sciences. We have Shivabhatra Mondal, who is the founder and CEO of Wiser Goals, and we have Sanjeev Menon, who is the co-founder and head of product Light Information Systems, and Norman Fitzquera, who is the director of Cloud Solution Architect Team, Microsoft. Thank you very much, gentlemen, for joining us today. My first question is for all of you. If I can ask you to name the one thing that you feel is the most important element to ensure that developers are empowered to think and create future-ready solutions, what would that be? So Norman, I would like you to go first.
Hey, thanks, Priya. So I think one of the first things that actually help developers in this case is a significant amount of automation. Whether it's developers, their managers, or organizations, everybody wants their tools and processes to be fast, delightful, and easy to use. So overall, better coding practices, automation is not only just going to help from a speed and productivity perspective, it'll also actually help improve collaboration and culture. And this automation that we're talking about is, it has to span the entire software lifecycle. So whether it's coding practices, whether it's doing security code scans when you're actually building code, whether it's you're deploying your solution to platforms like Azure, whether it's post-production like debugging, monitoring, there has to be a significant amount of automation that has to be incorporated in all of these practices so that developers can just focus on code and building great solutions.
Right, thanks for that, Norman. Let's come to you, Naveen.
Yeah, so the collaboration is like automation is the most important part, but I believe the collaboration, real-time collaboration is a requirement of a large teams. So the tools that are available for the collaboration and the real-time communication can help us delivering the products, creating the products, and control the quality. That is the most important in my company, I believe.
Absolutely. Vishwanath, let's come to you.
So having this infrastructure as a code, that helps us a lot. So that's very key. And having the build pipelines, so the gated build and the CI builds. So the gated builds is anyone who's pushing the code. We have to ensure that the code is in a compilable state and verifying that 80% of the test case coverage is there. If not, we have to have a build breaker, which should fail the build. And we have to execute the static code analysis on every pull request. So we don't want the bad code to get into the master or the main branch. So again, if the code quality is low, we should have a build breaker to break the build, and then the good the PR process, the review process, and then the release pipeline. So this one set of three things like infrastructure as a code, the build pipeline, the gated and the pull gated and the CI build and the release pipeline. So this gives us a lot of the entire department, like a operations department in these three key features.
Right, Shivabhrata, let's come to you.
Okay, thanks, Priya, and thank you, YourStory and Microsoft for inviting me into this very interesting panel discussion. So in order to answer your question, I want to focus on one of the key words you mentioned, which is future. So you said future-ready software, right? And when we talk about future, I think we have to first acknowledge that future is fundamentally unknowable and unpredictable. So you really need a system and process in place where you can work with that kind of unpredictable future. And there are a lot of literature out there in economics about uncertainty principles, where really what you have to do is when you have this uncertain future is to work on small increments, get feedback, and then iterate over it, right? And over the past 2 decades, clearly agile process is one of the things that has been adopted at mass in all organizations, right? But still, when you think of the agile principles, fundamentally what it is talking about is that it is a decentralized cross-functional team that are empowered to take small, very high frequency decisions, very frequent and micro decisions, and frequent communication. So that is all good, right? But still, when a large enterprise kind of adopts, agile processes and principles, they face some headwind. So what are those? And you can see, for example, I'll take two examples of agile process, right? So one is that agile talks about sprints, and at the end of the sprint, you would kind of make the software available to the end users, right? But think of a world where your software is, let's say, on-prem software, or your software is desktop software. So yes, very good. You have done the 1 week sprint and you have built software, but it is not available to your end users. You will get slotted into a quarterly or half yearly kind of release cycle. So what are the technologies that has really helped that? I would argue that it is cloud, SaaS, DevOps. Without those technologies, you could not have kind of build software rapidly, iterate rapidly to be future ready, which is uncertain. Right? So that is example one. I'll take another example. So agile principles also talk about that it is a cross-functional team that is working together, where there is a developer, no doubt, but there is also like the business user, there is a salesperson potentially, there is a product owner, and they have to work together and collaborate together. Now think of a software which is very complex, an enterprise software that you would build, and I would just request you to imagine that software like a sphere, where on the surface is where really is visible part of the software, and that is the layer at where this collaboration can truly happen, the cross-functional collaboration between developers and product owners, which is a visible part of the software. Oftentimes, as a team, you will find that there are a lot of internals and infrastructure that you have to first build before you can reach the surface, and so this collaboration is getting hampered. So that is where low-code technology that I kind of represent WiserGauss here is, I think, going to make a big dent. Low-code would allow the teams to build this software really rapidly, and so this agile, quick feedback, quick collaboration between product owners and developers would benefit, and that would also help you to again iterate quickly in small increments and be future ready, which is very uncertain. So again, in conclusion, really it is about system and processes which allows you to build small increments, get feedback, and iterate over it. Thank you.
Right. Sanjeev, if you want to add to that.
Sure. So in our view, at E42.ai, so we are in the cutting edge of technology. So in terms of process, automation tools, all these are, like the gentleman mentioned, like very important. But one of the key things that we have been doing, and we have been pretty successful at, is again in terms of fostering an open culture of innovation. That basically, like when you talk about that, it starts with free access to any resource for each of the developers, whether it's internet, whether it's courses, whether it's YouTube access, or whether it's admin control over their own dev machines to try out anything and everything, right? So without any restrictions to tools. So these are some of the thoughts that typically, like IT teams of most companies have naives on. But to foster an open culture, that is not just enough. So in a larger scale, what we look at is that we need to have a individual value alignment along with the organization and the individual developer. So how we are able to achieve that is through one, a purpose. So basically, like drive a purpose from a larger than an individual and a team perspective. Provide the level of autonomy to the individuals, that basically, like they are able to work on things that they want to work on, and how they want to work on, and when they want to work on. So basically, like time and quality of input is the only measurements there, and the individual is able to drive a mastery. So in terms of enhancing the skills or learning, or providing a horizontal move within the team itself. So, and these are basically typically the values that needs to propagate through the teams. And basically, like at Lightning Point System or E42.ai, we have made it a point that basically the company and the leadership, as well as the employees, are aligned towards that. So basically, we are fostering a culture of employee first, where like in the order of priority, it will be like our tribe or the employees, and the product, a collective output of the tribe, and the customer comes last, in a sense. So essentially the great teams with driven individuals build great products, and the customer just happens. So that's the way we are driving forward. And of course, to support this entire initiative, we we definitely use all the tools and the processes that's available and being in the leading edge of automation itself.
Right. Thanks for that. Norman, I want to come back to you. How are you creating a safe space for developers to not only create and innovate, but also experiment, fail, learn to achieve better results?
So at Microsoft, it's not just developers, but our workforce actually comprises of sales, marketing, finance employees, and developers, right? So it's a pretty diverse mix of employees who actually work for this company. So what we had done was on an annual basis, we used to have company-wide hackathon events, and these hackathon events would actually enable every employee to collaborate, to pitch ideas, and basically work with other employees on the specific ideas, right? So what we used to do as a part of this hackathon was we would actually focus on specific areas. So we could say, okay, do you want to actually build something for the industry? Do you want to build something from an employee experience perspective, just to improve the lives of, let's say, folks within the company itself? Do you want to build from a sustainability perspective? Do you want to build for a specific customer scenario? So we would actually have hackathons in all of these areas, and what that has led to is from a culture perspective, folks are actually able to think about ideas, work on them, and there is a possibility that the idea that you've actually contributed to can actually make it to an actual Azure feature, or could be a new service on Azure. So we fostered this sense of collaboration and actually building projects by collaborating with other folks in the company. What we've also done is, instead of, let's say, just waiting for a specific time in the year to do this hackathon event, we now actually have a significant inner source initiative. I think one thing that we've realized is again, I think I'm going back to Naveen's point in terms of collaboration, right? I think it's critical that this collaboration actually runs across the company through the entire year, right? So whether it's developers trying to figure out what code bits to reuse, right, to be able to search for components, to be able to actually reuse. If, let's say, there is no friction there, that you can actually leverage other pieces of code, collaborate with other folks, that can actually help increase developer productivity by almost over 50% or so. So yeah, critical things, hackathons, inner source initiatives, and access to resources, whether it's Azure subscriptions, GitHub repos, and all of GitHub capabilities. So those are critical things that we enable all employees to use across the company.
Right. Thanks for that, Norman. Let's come to you, Shubhabrata. How can organizations really empower their developers with a no code or a low code?
Right. So, see, I mean, the way I would like to answer that is, you can think of it. It is currently a lot in the news about a short supply of developers, of quality developers, right? And associated with that, probably an inflation in compensation. No, it is clearly a demand and supply problem, right? That you are unable to find quality developers, and you have really a lot of digital transformation that is going on in many industries where we need quality developers. So low code is really meant to solve this problem in a major way, and in two different ways, right? So one is that low code is actually going to increase the supply. That low code with citizen developers, there will be a larger pool of people whom you could hire to build really complex enterprise grade software. So that is one way that it is going to solve that. And the other is, it is actually going to improve developer efficiency, because in the whole idea of low code is there are a lot of pre-built components that you keep reusing. Like Norman was mentioning about, there is already something that I want to reuse. Now, low code is actually bringing a lot of such, pre-built solutions, which you now, with a drag and drop or with some easy mechanism, you could, assemble the software in some sense instead of building it potentially. And so the developer productivity is automatically going to improve because of that. And so in these two ways, I believe that low code will really impact, the developers' speed and productivity.
Right. Vishwanath, I want to come to you next. You've been working with several startups, local governments, and so many vast range of customers. What are some of the key challenges that these customers really came up with regarding empowering the developers, and how have you really helped them mitigate these challenges?
Okay, so it's related to the empowering the upskill of the employees. Is that the query?
Yes. How do you empower
Okay.
their developers? And
Okay.
how do you help them mitigate the challenges they face?
Right. So one of the first thing is like we need to give access to the learning sites, mostly like a plural site or some other sites. The first thing is every week they might, every day they might need to spend 30 minutes or something so that, they will upskill. Because I might be working in VB6 even today, but the world has gone lot. I mean, there are production systems, even they work on ASP today. So we might work on those projects, but we have to upskill ourselves every day 30 minutes. That's point one. And point two is we need to go and clear some certifications as part of our yearly goal, one or two certifications. If two is too much, take it one. Everyone has got their own personal life. So take one certification in a year and work through that. You will learn a lot of things. You'll get beaten black and blue while doing the practicals, and you'll learn from that. And the third thing, what we encourage is we need to create or write the blogs or go and do a community service where you learn to do a community service. You learn a new technology and you work on. And the third thing is like upskilling series. Like every 2 months, we'll start a 10 days sessions where the experts in the company, they need to come and they need to share whatever they're working in the latest shiny trendy technologies, so to teach what it is. It's like a series, 10 days or 15 days or 1 week. And some of the training should be specific technologies like data platform or a machine learning or Angular. I'm just hypothetically, I'm giving some scenarios. So do a boot camps on those specific things like architectural boot camp or data boot camps, these kind of things. And another thing is like weekly we have to conduct tech sessions so that every week we can give a chance to one of our associate or one of the team member to do their disconnected but short hands-on sessions. I mean, again, the theoretical slides, as someone mentioned it, there are tons and tons of material. You write like, what is Azure App Service? You'll get thousand and odd thing. But how do you deploy it? What tools do you have? So that skilling, I mean, weekly there should be a short 1 hour sessions, give the knowledge, give the source code, and ask them to go and do this one. And also the other thing is, before we reinventing the wheel, can we go across the board and check that did someone invented this component or someone worked on this component? Where is the knowledge? So can I reuse his knowledge? So I don't need to run from the first block. I can run from the 10th block if I go and get this one. These are some of the things which are which make us run pretty faster. Even though I work in VB6, given that I'm getting moved to the data project, if I attend a boot camp, I'm not telling that I'll be a superhero there, but at least I'll be one of the contributor, a soldier in the battle. Back to you.
Right. Right. Thanks for that, Vishwanath. And Naveen, I want to come to you to discuss the concept of developer velocity because it associates with innovation to business outcomes as well as ROI. So I wanted to understand how can businesses really ensure that the culture of innovation and collaboration is not getting sidelined while chasing growth?
Yep, yeah. So that's really a challenging situation for most of the organizations when there is a tight timeline for delivery of the projects, and when employees are there to be very sure that they are doing their best to be recognized in the organization. And when we talk about innovation, innovation need a lot of time to think, and at the same time, the employees should be should not be worried about the do the you say experiments. So innovation comes with experiments. That's what I believe. And in most of the organizations where when we are having a tight timeline for delivery the products or the projects, it is most of the time organizations skip that part, the part of the innovation and what the trends are there. They only work in that way. But the truth is that the most innovative companies are the most successful companies are now, and the example is the Microsoft itself is one of the greatest example for that. And already Norman told like how they do. So for me, like what are the most important points are that we need two things for sure. We having sufficient time and we having sufficient courage to do the innovations. That is the most two important parts. The first part will when you say for the time is, so if we set the long-term goals, So for the specific things or for the projects and small, so we are not always in hurry to deliver the things, and that is a standard practice of in good organizations. So we having some specific time to work on, and then we schedule a time. It can be a weekly Friday, 2 hours or something like that, where we can not only we can spend the time on the you can say experience, but we can also communicate with each other. We brainstorm with different approaches, different development tools, what's going new, and how the world is changing very fast. So we can having discussions over the team. We can having time to do some um, uh, developments. Even few of my teams, like they when they having some small they are on a live project, they can even do some experiments on a separate dev side where they can show that okay, the things can be go better with such innovations. At the same time, when it because the approach always comes from top to the bottom. So if I am a founder director of Nirja Software, and if I'm having a mindset of the for the innovations, I'm open for it. I think my managers and then my developers are ready to do it. If I have closed my mind and I'm on focusing on just the deliveries, the team will work the same. So it should start from top to bottom. At the same time, the managers or the owners can take the risk very easily. But are we able, or can we allow our employees to do the risk? See, failure is a part of our work, and when it comes to the developers, it is a very risky for their profile. Like okay, they want to do something, but it is not, they are not sure that this is going to be successful or not. So we should keep in mind, and we should encourage them that it's fine if it works or it not works, because itself a lot of failures and then a success. So yeah, that is a part of thing. Then I believe we also acknowledge our limits. So it should not always be the innovation. Like you also need to do your day-to-day activities. That is the most important part for your bread and butter. So we should acknowledge our limit in it, not only in the time, specific time, but also the technology. A small company is not having all the sort of expertise, and when there is something very new or something not yet proven, we should not go for that part if we not having that capacity with us. At the same time, I believe that it is the ownership of the project is the most important part. So if the team knows that they owns the project, they will automatically innovate the things for them, what is the best for to do. And at the same time, if they have done something really good, it should be recognized and rewarded as well. So if rewards are there and recognition is there, there will be a practice in the company that people try to do, innovate the things. So also, I believe that we should eliminate the specific process and projects that are taking time and that are going old. We should be very flexible in our development tools and all that stuff. I think that is sufficient from my side. Thank you.
Right. Thanks for that. Sanjeev, I want to come to you to talk a little bit about unique solutions that you've created for your enterprise consumers.
Okay, so first and foremost, E42.ai is a no-code AI platform. So since we have been talking about low code and no code, but this is actually no code. So it's not even low code. So what the platform does is that you have cognitive abilities, like how we humans can read a document and then understand, see a video, see somebody and recognize a person, or extract information out of any kind of a picture. Just in a glance, we are able to extract so much of information out of that. So basically, all these cognitive abilities are available on the platform. And our end customers as well as partners are able to stitch all these cognitive abilities together into AI workers. So the concept is it's about cognitive process automation, right? So the idea is that in an enterprise, you can take a particular role, or you can take a particular function and use the platform and automate that in their role or function. So for example, like it could be a AI HR executive that looks at the employee, that helps the employee, that helps the employees with their transactions on their claims and their leaves and everything. It also checks the employees on their well-being. It checks the employees on their mood and helps them helps them with their financial goal settings to their personal and professional goals. So basically, you have a personalized AI coworker that is along with you, helping you with their entire journey. Or take the example of an AI analyst. So that again, created on the no code platform, where it crunches through a lot of information across the net. It looks at the company filings. It looks at whatever information is out there about the particular topic that you are looking for, collects all that information and intelligently collaborates with the sources and creates an output, just like an analyst will generate a report, right? So that basically, at the end of the day, what we are looking at is any of the solutions that we look at, we are looking at an automation at a human parity level. So basically, if it is something that more or less a person can do, it is something that at least even if it's not 100%, at least partially or a lot of it is can be completely taken care of by the AI. So the idea is that the human can move up the value chain. So that has been some of the key solutions that we have been delivering for our end customers. So like an AI analyst or a HR executive or a customer care executive. So that basically it keeps the stakeholder in the center and automate the entire process and enhances the entire user experience, as well as helps the organization with their efficiencies and the top lines and the bottom lines.
Right. Thanks for that, Sanjeev. Now, I have a question, and I would like to bring both of you in, Vishwanath as well as Shubhabrata, to talk a little bit about, what an organization can do to attract the best talent and increase the impact of software development investments. Let's begin with you, Vishwanath.
So, a couple of things like retaining the talent is we should balance between the current project and the aspirations what a particular associate has. Like he might be a best fit for a project, and that is in VB6, and at the same time he's willing to work in the data platform. So this is the kind of situation. Or someone is working in the ASP.NET web forms since long, and if he's a key resource in that project, touching him will be a little risk. So he's a talented guy, but how do we do this? Some of the things is like, as I was mentioning, the certifications and giving him an upskilling and giving him different roles to train the juniors, share his knowledge. I mean, he goes and he learns a new technology and he imparts or he shares this knowledge across the board. And also, like, he can do some kind of innovation and certifications which gets reimbursed. And then some of the times once you do a particular certification, which is pretty hot right now, like AI, you do some solution architect and people will give them $250 or $500 gift just to complete that certification. And also like licensing, those kind of things, like US patents. Like you bring in your idea while working on the VB6 or ASP.NET MVC web forms long ago. We used to work in 2004 and 6. So you work on those projects, but you bring in your innovations. You come with this patents or you do something. Company will sponsor. Company will do the entire documentation. Whatever the amount which goes through will help you out this one. So this guy who's pretty much thirst of the technology, his thirst is getting served. At the same time, he's a critical resource in one of the project. He'll be more than happy to stick in that project for next 2-3 decades. Back to you, Priya.
Right. Shubhabrata, do you want to add to that, please?
Yeah, so there are two parts of your question, I think, right? So how to attract and retain talent and how to make them more productive. I think the make them more productive I probably addressed in the last answer I was giving. So I would focus on the first one, and then I have to say that this is really a difficult problem. It's not like we have solved it or achieved anything here. It's a work in progress, but there are some ideas, right? So one, I believe that there are two parts. One is that there should be a sense of belonging to a group. Like a company, end of the day, is a group of people, and irrespective of what you do, you want to hang around together. I mean, if that sense comes, then I believe that people will do their best work. And unfortunately, because of work from home and COVID, I feel that that has been hampered. And once now that we are getting back to work, hopefully we'll be able to build like that sense of belonging and hanging out together. And a lot of innovation happens over coffee and water cooler and things like that, right? Like that has to kind of come out. So that is one. And the other part, I think Vishwanath probably already touched upon a little bit. I think of it in this way, at least in my organization, that yes, you have to match people with what they want and their skills with what what they are doing in your organization. And at a very high level, I think of it from purely as a developers, that developers could be contributing core to some core technology, that you're really innovating on some core technology, and that's it. Right? So that is a different type of person, different type of attitude, different type of mindset. And then there could be developers who are using all of that technology and solving a business problem. And that person is also a developer. There is no good or bad. Both are needed, both are important. Different people are good at different things. And so you have to match that, right? So you have to match and put the right people in the right team. So yeah, I'll probably say just those are the two that I would like to focus on. But having said that, it is a difficult challenge, I think.
Right. My next question is for Norman, Sanjeev, as well as Naveen. What, according to you, are the latest trends in developer productivity? If you could name maybe two of these trends, and maybe what do you think about the future of developer tools? So let's begin with you, Norman.
Right. So as a company that actually builds dev tools out, so maybe I can talk about some of the things that are critical in the dev tool space. So a key thing is to minimize the amount of context switching. The idea is that if a developer is using an IDE, let's say Visual Studio Code to develop software, they should be able to do maximum of their tasks and activities without really switching on the tool itself. So if you want to deploy your code to Azure, any other platform, if you actually want to run a security scan of your code, you should be able to do that using Visual Studio Code itself. What we also want to look at is from an inner loop and an outer loop perspective. So the idea is that if you're actually building software, which is developing, coding, deploying, and plus the outer loop part as to once this thing has got deployed in production, so that you can do that, post that you want to do debugging, monitoring, all of those capabilities should be possible within the same set of tools itself, right? So dev tools is one critical aspect. The other thing is to provide that environment to the developer where they want it. So let's say if you go to GitHub today, you just go to a repo and say dot, it opens it up for editing right then and there itself. What if you really want a high-powered developer workstation? GitHub Code Spaces allows you to do that, provision a high-end developer workstation, which they can actually start coding with. The other also critical component that we're seeing more traction and we've actually done a work on is AI in programming. In Visual Studio, we've always had IntelliSense, IntelliCode, which actually does an autocomplete of your code based on your own coding practices. With GitHub Copilot, which is our pair programmer tool, we're actually going beyond that. So where Copilot is actually scanned publicly available GitHub repos, and it really helps you code faster by doing an autocomplete of the code that you want to write. So yeah, AI, a great set of environments, and let's say dev tools, which minimize your switching and allow you to do everything within the dev tool itself, are things that I think will actually help improve developer productivity.
Right, and Naveen, let's come to you next.
Yeah. So looking on the trends, I believe the most important points are like. I think Sanjeev Menon already working on the part that is the no code, low code thing. So that is going to be most popular, I believe. And if some tools are there, like each and every day we are thinking. So that is going to be a very popular thing. Next, we'll see very different. At the same time, if we'll see machine learning part, so the machine learning trends are going very popular nowadays, and this is going to be in huge demand. At the same time, I will say of DevOps. If DevSecOps is the thing that is the most important part, because nowadays the different access levels, the security is a common responsibility of the team, not only the operations or security. So those tools are already there. At the same time, if I'll say the specific in the Azure, the way of automation we are doing in the where we even do not require to change the I'm forgetting the name. Recently I used where I was even not required to change the production server. It was all automated using production snapshot or like this. So in that way, we can automate the even the using GitHub's and these containerize the things, and we were able to do a live update on the applications, and the instances is automatically got the change without any. So these are all automated things are the most important. I feel trends that is going to change the future. Thank you.
Right. Thanks for Naveen. Naveen, Sanjeev, a final word from you.
Yeah, so definitely that no code and low code platforms are taking the focus nowadays, and that trend is going to continue because a lot of the typical software things that we have been doing for years and years, a lot of those things will be taken over by those platforms. If you look at web development kind of this thing, gone are the days you need to start something from scratch, and so with somebody with some expertise will be able to create something in the no code space really fast. So now I mean, but unfortunately, since we are one of the providers of a no code AI platform, we don't have the luxury of working with a no code there, because that is the end results of what we are creating. So from our experience expertise point of view, some of the dev tools that I mentioned here in terms of Tmux and VI may find very archaic, or may find very old. But thing is that if we are from an expertise point of view, once you have an expertise, there is no tool today that you can actually get much more productive than these things. And Raman said, the container-based deployments, the ONNX, and that inter-exchange of data sets between transformation, all these play a key role in terms of managing the developer productivity. On the other end also, what we as a company has been experimenting and been pretty successful in terms of raising the productivity is also empowering the developer itself, right? Empowering the developer in the sense that giving them the kind of freedom to try out different stuff. And like Mandal mentioned, how they are able to try out different stuff and fail fast. If they are doing that, it need not be always a successful attempt, but at least fail fast and give them the confidence on that, and they are able to learn from that failure, is going to be a tremendous advantage to the company itself. So these are some of the things that we have been trying and been pretty successful in terms of implementing and increasing the productivity of the developers itself.
Right. Thank you so much, panelists, for sharing all your valuable experiences with us today. Really a very interesting and fruitful discussion. Thanks for being a part of this very interesting panel, and thanks so much for your time.